Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. This episode is with Maui cosplayer and Perler artist Brian Harris, who I met at MegaCon and got hooked up with our mutual friend Patrick Towers. We have survived Hurricane Irma with just a little bit of water damage in the house. We are waiting to find out if we're going to have carpets replaced and just seeing about the subfloor. And of course, we did have to toss out probably a good $100 or $200 worth of groceries and frozen stuff because we were without power for so long. However, that is not why you're here. You're here for entertainment. And not only do we have Brian's episode today, which is Monday, we also have Firefly's 15th anniversary with Ellie and Zenger of the Zeng This podcast coming back to talk about it. And the 80th anniversary of The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. We have 14 different people coming to this podcast to talk about their love of The Hobbit, whether we're talking about the book, the Rankin Bass animated movie, or the movies from Peter Jackson, the trilogy of movies, as it were. It is a great month to be a listener for Tales from the Fandom. If you'd like to help support the podcast, you certainly can. We do have a Patreon at patreon.com/talesfromthefandom. For as little as $1, you can help support the podcast with its hosting fees and whatever else we're getting into. I did order a new microphone, so hopefully that will help. You do get early access to podcast episodes. For certain levels, you get a sticker sent to you, and you get mentioned on the podcast. You get t-shirts. You can collaborate with me on a different project, all sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of good stuff there at the Patreon site. If not, keep following us on facebook.com/talesfromthefandom, or you can find us on Twitter at talesftfandom. For now, there's going to be a short promo for a different podcast because that's what we also like to do, is help support other podcasts and get new listeners to them as well. And then you'll be joining Brian and myself. Thank you all so much, and I look forward to talking with you again.
Hey, are you a jock that likes comics?
Are you a nerd that likes comics?
Do you feel left out sometimes?
Well, then we've got the show for you.
I'm Imran.
And I'm Anthony.
He's the jock.
And he's the nerd.
And we host the Jock and Nerd podcast at jockandnerd.com. If you're looking for fun, entertaining, laugh-out-loud geek chat over all the latest Marvel, DC shows and news, visit jockandnerd.com.
Full spoiler podcast, lots of swearing.
You're such a jock.
You're such a nerd.
Oh, come on.
Shut up, nerd.
Okay.
Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, the podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. Today's guest is a local Central Floridian who I got to see in action at MegaCon a few months ago, and he was a pretty awesome Maui. And I had actually posted about the Maui that I saw on Facebook, and through the power of social media and having a friend on my friends list, Patrick Towers, who's a fantastic artist, and you might have seen his work posted occasionally. We got connected, and now I am speaking to the Maui cosplayer of MegaCon, Brian Harris. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm glad that we got to get hooked up together. I'll have to thank Patrick again for this because I seriously dug your Maui cosplay. It was super awesome. I did wonder, again, it's Florida, so I wasn't going to say if you got cold or not, but it was a little bit cooler in the building than it had been in the past.
Oh man, I was still sweating in that building. The one thing about the character, I just never wanted to break character, so I was always moving around, jumping around, so I kept pretty warm.
Well, I guess that's the way to do it. Just get into action in. So we'll talk about Maui and MegaCon later on in the episode, but what are some of the big fandoms that you're into?
Well, of course, Disney is at that top. Zen superheroes, and then, of course, sprite art. It's semi-new. It's Perler art, where you take Perler beads, or really, really tiny beads, and you just decide to make an image of like video games, 8-bits, or in my case, I do portraits or really, really big pieces.
Awesome. We're gonna have to talk about that because I've seen that around. It's been growing in popularity. We saw one. There's a comic book art show that happened up in Fashion Square Mall a few months ago, and we saw this really large Dragon Ball Z piece there
Oh yeah.
made out of the Perler beads, and that was pretty cool.
Well, Patrick Towers, good friend of mine. Also known him since I was actually probably 5 or 6 years old. My biggest piece was one of his art pieces he gave me.
So what art piece was that?
His chocobo. I have a chocobo that's pretty near close to life size, and I'm about 5'10", and the head comes right at the tip of my neck or throat, actually, and that's touching
Holy
the ground.
cow.
Oh yeah, that took me
Oh
about
my God.
3 weeks, but yeah.
I don't even know if I have words for it because even the Dragon Ball Z piece that I saw was only maybe about a foot to a foot and a half in height.
Yeah, I usually do about a 2 foot, 3 foot, but the chocobo was just, done because I wanted to do something special for him. He's always been there for my family, so yeah, of course.
Awesome. Well, let's start off with Disney because again, you represented Maui at MegaCon. Usually, I generally assume that as a child you got into Disney films. Because Disney is kind of one of those things that for us here in the States, it's kind of you grow up with either the Disney Channel or Disney movies.
Yeah.
Was that that I assume that was the case with you?
Actually, no. Surprisingly, my family didn't go to Disney as much. I just recently started going to Disney a lot. We really didn't do much. We went to the theaters to watch some of the movies. We had the VHSs. And for the longest time, you had to pay for Disney, the Disney Channel.
Yes, way back in the day. I think we're probably about the same age because my parents refused. They were like, "No, we're not paying that extra money for the Disney Channel."
For anybody out there that is kind of thinking, "Well, Disney's free now." Well, Disney used to be like HBO Channel, so yeah. We fought for that, moved around satellites and bunny ears. Hey, we can kind of get Disney for free, but no. Yeah, that really kicked it off. Aladdin actually was the one that kicked it off for me as a kid. It's also my mom's favorite movie. So
yeah, I remember one of my earliest memories, and this is going to sound weird to people that are listening. Is they used to have in the early mornings on Disney Channel when we actually had it for whatever reason. Either it came in like a cable package at the time, but it was like Mouser size, and it would be Mickey Mouse exercising with actual people.
Yeah.
I mean, that throwing it way back, that's one of my earliest memories of actually having the Disney Channel.
I recently stumbled over that on YouTube, actually. And I was like, where was I when this happened? And vaguely seeing it as a kid, I'm like, wow, I want to exercise. Not really. No.
Aladdin was like that first big Disney movie for you?
Yes, it was. Rest in peace, Robin Williams. I love the genie. I actually want to do his personality. Eventually, I would like to cosplay as him. The way he portrayed the genie, outgoing, charismatic, always dancing, referencing movies way before even my time. I like watching old movies. I do that on a daily basis throughout my life. So, and then occasionally break out in song.
Did you see Aladdin in the theaters, or did you get it on videotape?
I got it on videotape. Lion King, I believe, was the first movie I saw in the theaters.
Okay.
But definitely, I saw Aladdin on VHS. Yeah, I popped that in that automatic rewind. Be Kind Rewind. From Movie Gallery. Jeez. Yeah.
That's old school. I used to work at Blockbuster, and we had the actual machines that all they did was rewind the
Yeah.
videotape.
We're just gonna pop you right in, press down, and watch you rewind yourself. Yep.
Exactly. Exactly. Like you can't have tapes that weren't rewound at the time. You had to have them right at the beginning, or you got in trouble.
Hey, at least it wasn't a cassette where we had to use a freaking number 2 pencil to rewind that. So,
Oh my goodness. That's some old school stuff right there. For people that,
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, for people that don't know, I mean, that are listening and you're of like the generation after Brian and I, like if you had a cassette tape, which is what was like the predecessor to CDs, if the tape kind of got messed up, you had to get a pencil and twist it so it could get back into the cassette.
Yep. Oh, the struggles. I believe I had Aladdin, Lion King, even South Park, the bigger, better, uncut on cassette. Had the Crow soundtrack on cassette, and Metallica. Of course, I had Metallica on cassette.
Well, of course, most people did at that time.
Yeah. Hey, what kind of Walkman do you have?
Exactly. You had to get the Walkman that was like non-shock or whatever, vibration resistant,
God,
so that way it wouldn't mess up.
And yet again, for the generation that's after us, when you had a CD and you didn't have that, anti-knock, oh, that was the worst. Just scratching your CDs the whole time. Ugh.
Yep. Like you get it out and it looks like it's been through just a war and it just doesn't play right again.
Yep.
So as far as Disney movies go, which movie is your favorite? Like, is Aladdin your favorite, or is there one that kind of takes the top spot?
That's it's a tie between literally Moana, Aladdin, and technically Nightmare Before Christmas. So I actually have a tattoo of Nightmare Before Christmas on my back that I designed.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah.
Nightmare Before Christmas. What's the hook for you as far as that being one of your top 3?
I believe it's because I have a fascination and love for stop motion animation. Also, I was a big fan of the poem before it was a cult classic now, and Danny Elfman. I truly love everything that he does, especially when, Simpsons was even before my time. A lot of people finally found out that, he did the theme song. Yeah, Danny Elfman's a man.
Yeah, he's one of those classic composers that some people, they watch the movies just to listen to his music.
He was the singer for Li Chang in Mulan. That was an awesome trivia that I found out.
I had no idea. You just blew my mind.
I couldn't believe it either when I listened to it over and over again. And I always listened to the Jackie Chan one too. And I was like, why does that voice sound familiar? And I looked it up. And sure enough, Danny Elfman. And also, I'm a big Tim Burton fan too. So, hey.
And then with stop motion animation, again, another thing from our time as a lost art, really.
When they brought that back into Coraline, I lost it when I saw the trailer. I was like, I need to see this movie. Anything related to clay work or stop animation, I'm just all for it.
Yeah, it's one of those things with movies nowadays where everything is pretty much computer generated. They're getting back somewhat to like the hand drawn stuff, so to speak, but it's nice to see some of those classic movie techniques still being used today.
Yeah, especially when people talk about anime with me. I'm like, I only watch hand-drawn anime back in the day, like Akira. So, back in my day, we hand-drew every crap, so...
Right? Like, that's all you could do. Like, because it would take hours to render something on the computer back. I remember in high school, people were doing like rendering for like 30-second videos, and it would take days for it to actually render.
Oh yeah. I started doing flip books in elementary school for just for entertainment. Oh,
It the time that we live in now.
yeah, it's way too simplistic.
So as far as Disney goes, we got your top 3 favorite movies. Who's your favorite character?
I'd have to say currently is Maui.
Maui. Is it what's the reasoning behind Maui as being your current favorite character?
Well, like I said before, Genie was actually, as a kid, my thing, that personality. So when they brought that to Moana, when Maui came out, being a demigod, his quote unquote arrogance and his cockiness, but yet fun and loving and understanding, I just fell in love with it. And literally, when I watched the trailer, I was like, am I in this movie? And when I found out that Dwayne The Rock Johnson played him, I was like, no. I was like, I get to walk, like, since I was a kid, my brothers and I, we walk around. Granted, I'm Filipino, Chamorro. And they're like, you look Samoan. Or, you look just Polynesian. I was like, well, this is perfect. This is me.
That movie, I remember taking my kids to go see it. We all went as a family. And after we watched it, I think I either turned to my wife or I told someone the next day, I said, Moana is my favorite Disney movie now. Like,
oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, we've had Frozen and I love Tangled and I love a lot of like that classical resurgence like Lion King, Aladdin, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. But Moana, for some reason, just struck that chord of story and character and music and voice acting and animation, and it's just kind of like it all came together into this perfect movie.
Yeah, the research that they all went through for the culture and the background is what made me fall in love with it. My culture is pretty close to it, especially with the look. The Chamorro or people from Guam sometimes get mistaken as Polynesian people, and Filipinos. I am a big Filipino, which totally breaks the stereotype of us. And I can't go around without having someone ask me if I'm Hawaiian or from the islands, being Pacific Islander, because the Philippines is right outside the actual triangle for the Pacific Islands, where my mom's from. Like it's a great movie, and the music was phenomenal. I think I lost myself when singing "You're Welcome" all weekend long, and I held the door for my glam squad that I was with. That's what we call ourselves, as the glam squad. And they just stared at me, and I was like, fine. And I would say, "You're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome," and I'd just hold the door for just about everybody. And I was like, It was bad.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
I do remember seeing they had, on the Disney Channel, they're always airing stuff about like the making ofs and whatever. And one of the things that they had talked about specifically with Moana is that they went to the various islands to do their research, and basically they had told, because I know that Disney gets a lot of grief about cultural appropriation when they take something but they're not understanding of where it's coming from. And this time the people who made Moana went there to talk with the people on the islands and to learn about the culture and to make sure that they were actually incorporating it correctly into the movie rather than just cherry picking stuff from Wikipedia. Basically,
they even have a document stating that they will keep it to the culture, have the rights to take like the actual outfits or the dances, the haka, for example. They signed off on that. I did a lot of research for Moana, so just myself.
Yeah, that was the one thing that, on the first run through when you're watching the movie, you're not picking up on some of the stuff. But when you watch, like, I like to show my kids the music video for "You're Welcome."
Oh, yeah.
And you actually start you if you stop and are actually watching it instead of just the big movements and everything, you're actually seeing that it is very like it's got basically it's that haka style where
It is.
it's the dance and the arm motions and everything else, and you're actually getting to see that as he's singing it, he's actually telling the story with his body as well. And that was one of the cool things that I picked up on after seeing it multiple times, and not just for the kids, but I love it as well.
Yeah, I took a film class in college, and I was noticing all those when I first saw it. The funny thing about when I first saw it, it was still the premiere week, and I saw it at Disney Springs, and I had to take a picture in front of the massive picture of Moana, the people's eyebrow and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I ended up buying the doll, the baby Moana doll there, and I bought two, one to be, mint in box and one to be outside of the box. And I told my mom, I was like, you must see this movie with me. I swear I'm in this movie. So we come back to Melbourne, Florida, and, we go to Oaks, and I have my bag with me. Well, my wife has my bag, and I have the baby doll in there. So when the movie came on, I just take out the baby doll. I even had the hook with me going to the theater, and people were just staring at me like, oh my God, is that really you? And my mom lost it. She's like, that's so you. That's so amazing. And it was great. The amount of smiles I saw when I would just walk around with just a toy hook. Like, I got stopped at Walmart when I was trying to buy it, and they're like, we know you're not the voice actor, but you definitely look like Maui. I was like, well, thank you. So.
You're welcome.
Oh, I was trying so hard not to. Break out in song and dance at Walmart. Oh, man.
You'd be on YouTube for sure.
Oh, yeah. The Maui cry I did at MegaCon is all over YouTube. I know that.
Now, getting away from Disney and Moana, you're also like super big into superheroes.
Yes.
Again, was it something when you were younger and you got maybe some comic books as a kid, or was it something as more like teenager or present day where your comic book started?
It was definitely when I was a kid. The very first comic was when Venom had his first single run. The comic, I still have it to this day, is my eldest brother's comic. It's a holographic red with Venom on the front. And I've gotten to the point where I've read it so much, I can literally tell you the first 2 to 3 pages and each panel. My cousin used to, test my memory on it, too. He's like, no, you didn't. I was like, yeah, I did. But overall, I started as a kid reading comics because of my eldest brother, and Venom was my first, and second was Spawn #1, which was a lot of graphic, a lot as a young kid looking at that. And then, I just got desensitized. I was like, this is great. What can we do to find this? My mom was pretty angry about that. I was like,
I can imagine.
Blood and gore, yeah. Then, of course, watching Fox cartoons on the weekend, X-Men, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. But no, overall, one of the major superheroes that I relate to and have been called since I was about 5 years old is the Hulk.
And what's the story behind that?
Well, out of all 3 boys, we started working outside in our yard at a very young age. I was 3. My other brother was 4, and my eldest brother was a lot older anyways. And we would lift adobe blocks and carry it over 3 lots and just do a lot of labor work. Starting at a young age, and my grandma loved Lou Ferrigno, loved watching the Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, you're my little Hulk. You're my baby Hulk. So it stuck. It wasn't until my teenage years, I started going by Pinoy Hulk, being the Filipino Hulk.
Okay.
like in honor of my grandma. So yeah, the amount of strength and my calves are ridiculous. I will eventually get the shorter like grass skirt. I think that's like the best part of my body is my calves. I can't go to a gym without being stopped when someone's like, "Holy crap, are those real?" I was like, "I'm standing here." I LA Fitness here, just like they all stopped me. My first day in the gym, they were like, "Can we Snapchat your calves? Like, what do you work? Like, what do you do as your regimen?" Nothing. I'm just that way, built in genetics, and I do have, you know, the same qualities as Bruce Banner, like smart, but don't get me angry. Don't,
Right.
that's just that's normal for everybody. My brother and my mom and my eldest brother call it the ticking time bomb in me because I've only exploded one time, so and it wasn't a good thing.
I'll have to keep that in mind. Yeah, I totally get that though. As far as comics go, do you have like a favorite comic series or comic book character that you like follow or you enjoy like over the time period that you've been into comics?
Well, it definitely, is Hulk's always going to be number one. I followed it as far as back as I can remember, and even with the new Awesome Hulk, that is Amadeus Cho, which is a Chinese, Chinese person playing the Hulk. That's one of my upcoming cosplays. And then, of course, Spider-Gwen. When Spider-Gwen came out, I fell in love with the story. I got to the point to hunt down like Jason Latour and Rodriguez to sign my comics of Spider-Gwen.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah. Like I have a couple Hulks signed. Like my 180 is signed by Stan Lee, and Herb Trimple, rest his soul, he passed away right before I got to meet him in Boston. So, yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, especially like I've talked to a few different people about characters that they love that have come out of the Marvel universe recently, and one of the ones that is always talked about is Spider-Gwen.
The story that Jason Latour came up with her is amazing. To have a character that caused Peter Parker to pretty much almost give up the mantle and just really affected his life. Mary Jane was always there, but it was really Gwen that his first real love that tore him apart, and he made decisions off of that. Of course, you have Uncle Ben, but when Jason Latour took the story and was like, "Hey, we're going to introduce her as, part of the Spider-Verse, we're going to switch, spoiler alert, Peter Parker as being her love and passing away." And you got to read the comic in order to understand that dynamic, because I think it was that, that story and her meeting up with Aunt May in another universe, and Aunt May knowing exactly who she is, knowing that she's already dead. So it's really like not a romance type deal. There's enough action in there, but there's so much story that ties in to Spider-Man in general.
Right.
Yeah, she beats herself up about it. And what's funny is that it's only one panel. It was only one panel that explained the story. And it was the first run of Spider-Gwen where you see that panel over and over again. So,
yeah, she's definitely been one of those Marvel breakout characters recently. And it's interesting because when I talk to people about the Marvel comics recently, it's really hard for me to talk about the more recent stuff that's going on, because with when they did that whole merged universe with Doctor Doom basically being in charge of it, and you had these comics that were coming out, and like you got to like, I remember I fell in love with A-Force, which was like the female Avenger group. I was like, oh man, I'm digging this.
A-Force.
I'm digging this. Yeah, I'm digging that comic with all like these cool, She-Hulk and Medusa and all these cool characters put together. And then after like the year of them doing this whole crossover, smushing universes together, and then starting everything over, that comic's gone. And it's like, I liked it before they did all this Doctor Doom worlds colliding thing, and now it's hard to kind of get a grasp on where characters are, or are they not in the universe anymore, and what's happening. So like, I've been picking and choosing which comics I've been trying to follow, but like, it's been tough, like, to follow characters. But Spider-Gwen's one of those characters where it's like, yeah, I can still see her and follow her stuff, because I don't think she's part of the actual universe. She's still set off in her own section.
Yeah.
And that was my Marvel rant or ramble for the podcast.
Well, the thing is that A-Force wasn't ever... It didn't get as big as all the other names, which is funny to me. Like, you bring them up, like, it's almost as rare as bringing up the original Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, people, when they started talking about, oh, well, the original wasn't, whatever, or the Avengers. Oh my God. I can go on and on about how people just talk about the movie versus Avengers. And as a hardcore comic nerd, it's like, I want to slap you, but no.
You brought up the original Guardians of the Galaxy, and I got into them because I was into the New Warriors comic books that had Vance Astro.
Yeah.
And it's like his future version of him at some point becomes one of the people in the original Guardians of the Galaxy. And that's how I got into like reading them, and reading New Warriors was like that crossover character.
Yeah. If anybody is a Guardians of the Galaxy fan and want to learn a lot about them, definitely go back in the old comics. It's a lot more grittier, actually. You realize that they interacted with the Defenders, not the Defenders on Netflix. Yeah, we're just going way, way off topic there.
Oh, it's okay. Go off topic. Feel free.
Oh, man, my cousin and I'm pretty sure if Patrick sat in with us, we've gone 2 hours. I've recorded conversations of us just ragging on the movie versus, comics, and why they would do it, like our theories. So, yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah, there's always stuff. Like, I remember, I think like Guardians of the Galaxy was being made at the time, and one of my friends had asked me about the Guardians, and I said, if you really want you want to get a grasp on what they're doing or what they could be doing with the cosmic universe in the movies, you really need to pick up Annihilation Wave, which was a really good comic run with like Nova, Guardians of the Galaxy, Drax, Gamora, like it had, and Ronan the Accuser, it had like all of them fighting off Annihilus and his Annihilation Wave, and I was like, this is pretty much what I would love to have from a cosmic universe after Thanos is dealt with. You just have them, like, everybody, if they're doing a breakout with like Guardians of the Galaxy and they break out like Nova, or they break out some other characters, it would be awesome just to have like that kind of thing going on, where it's basically they're up against like these insane odds, because even like the Skrulls are taken over, the Kree. It's an insane comic book series that is, I think, overlooked by a lot of people.
Yeah, it's that, and literally we could go a whole day about how X-Men screwed up. So yeah.
Well, the 3 key letters on that is FOX.
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, if I really want to say anything, all I have to say is Serenity.
Oh dear God.
Or Firefly.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Like, let alone like the other shows that have come before and after that, of like you get attached and then it's like canceled.
I will Hulk smash through this computer just about how much they screwed up. but I need my laptop.
Yes, and I need you for just a little bit longer.
Of
So
course.
let's get away from that. And let's talk about you and this Perler beads, because we as for a Christmas present, we bought each of our kids some Perler beads and like the Perler bead holder and everything. And they didn't get it until MegaCon, when we took them and we're like, look, see, you can do all these really cool like superheroes and video game people that you guys like, and we could totally do that. And I think it's laid the groundwork. Probably this summer we're going to start breaking them out and getting them into it. But you said, you have done like almost a life-size chocobo. I've seen some insane Perler bead art. Like how did you see that online or at a convention and say like, I want to start doing that? Or was it something where you got into it at the start?
Well, before I knew it was called Perler beads, they were melty beads. And it happened at church when I saw it as a kid. My cousin reintroduced it to me a couple years ago, and I took off with it. It's very therapeutic, and like I said, whenever I got angry or just stressed out, I'd start purling. And taking a tweezer, individually placing these beads was very relaxing to me. But the moment I sneezed, all the rage would come back, because it's very delicate. Like if you cough, sneeze, bump the table, they fall. Mm-hmm. And I finally got to that point where it's like, I will hold my breath and everything known to man, run out the entire room, then cough, sneeze, and do what I need to do, and then go back to work. Like, it was bad. One of the major ones that people know about my Perler art is Stan Lee. I did a portrait for Stan Lee, and did two, and he signed the other one for me, and he has one that's at his house.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I went to Boston, talked to his people, talked to Stan himself. It was great. It was actually my first MegaCon when I went to see him. I got a VIP ticket, and his handlers saw my mask. I do candy beads, but I also made candy masks. Well, not candy masks, but Perler masks. I found a way to mold my face onto, these beads and melt it. And they're like, would you ever do one for Stan? I was like, of course I would if he wanted it. Well, I got a picture that he wanted, and the rest is history.
That is awesome.
Yeah, like, it's actually on one of my business cards for my Perler art page. I haven't posted anything in a while because I've been moving. So, yeah.
Okay. So you have made something that is in Stan Lee's house, and
Yes.
that is just, I'm almost at a loss for words on that, because that's just something that doesn't happen every day to like everyday people. Like that's just something special right there.
Yeah, it was an experience for me to be in contact with Stanley Collectibles and go through the process. Like, to have Stanley take off his glasses and look at it in front of me was priceless. I thought I would never see that man without his glasses on, to be honest, without Googling a picture. But his reaction was perfect. And then, the second MegaCon, he was there, and, I had a photo op ticket, and I brought my portrait with me, and he goes, that looks familiar. I have one too. And so I turned my hat around, and he goes, that's right, you're Hulk. And I lost it. I had friends with me that jumped into the photo shoot, and they're like, we thought you were lying. I'm like, why would I lie? Like, you saw the pictures, like, yeah. And it was just a magical moment, and they're just like, I can't believe you. We hate you. I was like, and? So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's why I do this podcast, everyone, for great stories like this that, you don't hear about until you just hear it from somebody, and that's, I don't know. Like, it's awesome. That's awesome, man.
Well, I always go for those experiences, man. Like, I'm not that starstruck at all. So like the voice actor for Super Mario was there for this past MegaCon.
Yeah.
He ran up to me when I did my Maui call and wanted to take pictures. I didn't realize he was trying to get my attention until he did Yahoo! I was like, no. So I turn around, he's right there with his phone out. He goes, "Can I take pictures with you?" I'm like, do I have to pay for it? That was like the first thing I said, and my friend is just laughing. And he goes, "No, this is for, my niece and nephew. They love the movie. You're perfect." I'm like, done. So we took several pictures together. I was like, yeah.
That's awesome, man. Oh my gosh, that's cool.
Yeah.
What else have you done with your Perler art? And generally, how do you come up with the design for it? Do you do it yourself, or is it something where you're going online to maybe like get pattern help, or how does it work for you?
I use Bead HD. It's an application on Android. The only downfall for people that use it is it scales it to massive size. That's why I got it.
Okay.
I also put it into a grid, like using Paint and Excel and stuff like that. Pictures that I like, and go from there. One thing that I do with my Perler art that I notice that some other people don't do is light shading. Jerry Dugan, who has been doing the Deadpool comics for a while, I met him in Boston, and I made a mini Deadpool for him. And I have a big, like half size, about 3 feet long, about a foot and a half tall, of Deadpool, and it looks pink really close. At a far distance, it's red. He lost it, signed it for free, all this other stuff, posted it on Twitter for me, and when I gave him mine, small one, just as a thank you, he also tweeted that under Deadpool and Jerry Dugan on Twitter. I lost my stuff for that.
That is oh my gosh, man. Like the people that you are getting to interact with just based on like what some people just be like, "Oh, look, cute some things for the kids," like, and you're taking it to a whole new level.
Yeah, but I've been asked to do tables with my Perler art, and it's more along the lines of, I'm an engineer now. I don't really have the time like I used to. I used to spend more than 8 hours just working on a piece. So yeah, it was a job. I would hold 2 jobs, that and just going out to work. I need to post new stuff though. I miss it.
What's the average time for you to complete a piece from concept of I want to do this to it is completed?
Depending on the scale, if it's medium size, which is probably a 4-panel, it would take me, depending on the lighting and if I had the beats, roughly 2 hours, depending on what it is. That's because I'm very, very color coded on it. Like I want the light shading on it. I've done stuff without light shading, and that usually takes probably an hour or less. So.
Okay, that's not too bad. Not as much. Although I imagine like your like the big ones, like you said, your Chocobo one that took a lot longer.
Yeah, 2 weeks. My first Stan Lee portrait took me 3 weeks, and the last one actually took me longer. So that's because I was balancing another job on top of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a 3-foot Mega Man that I did, and that actually only took me 3 hours. That's because I was rushing through it. I was so excited to get it done, and the light. I had all the beads. That one thing about Perler art and trying to find color patterns is if you take the time to use different shades of blue and green, like for Godzilla, I used about 15 different colors in there, but it looks beautiful. You can always go solid. A lot of people just go with a solid color, right? But it's that random orange in a whole brick of yellow. It's like, why is that there? Stand back for a second. Oh, it comes together. Yeah, that's what I love doing about it.
What do you think is the hardest thing for the Perler art for you specifically?
That would be between melting it or breathing. So I'm telling you, when you do this in the summer with your kids, try not to get frustrated or let them just like, oh my God, I'm going to throw this panel off the table, because I was vacuuming so much. Like, just the slightest breath would wiggle one of these beads. And if I dropped the entire leg of the chocobo, that's why it took longer.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, it was 3 a.m. in the morning, and I was just getting it done because I wanted to. I forgot what con it was. I brought it to a con, and I wanted to show Patrick. So yeah.
And what's your best tips if for people who are listening, or me, because eventually it's going to be me doing it. The ironing, like what's the key to that?
Honestly, get a really cheap generic iron, set it on 3. For me, I actually set mine on like wool, where it's really, really hot. But there's a trick. After you lay out the beads, use duct tape, like brick layer it like with duct tape, and poke holes into it. It traps the airs in there, so when you peel it off the panel, they're still in the right place. Set down your wax paper or parchment paper and just go to town. The longer you hold the heat on there, the more it fuses together, like it melts together.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch it, right, do light circle patterns with the iron, you'll see that, it's starting to bleed through the, parchment paper. That's where you can dictate how much do you want to fuse those beads, and if you would like to hang it up on a wall, like put a panel on the wall and just place it back on a panel. For me, I don't like full fusions. That's the full melting it, so it's flat. I like to have it where if I held it up in the light, you can see right through it, and you can see all the different colors, like almost like a stained glass type deal.
Okay.
But yeah, fusing it, you want to make sure that you've melted the pieces together. And be very, very careful taking the duct tape off of what was melted. Oh, after melting it, make sure you put something heavy that's balanced on top of it and let it sit for, depending on the size. If it's a small size, I still say put it down for about 45 minutes so that it fully sets in the heat.
Okay.
And then peel off the duct tape and stuff.
Awesome. Good tips to have for anybody that's interested in doing it, because I know a year ago, even maybe a year and a half ago, you didn't really see that much of it out there, and now it's all over, like conventions, people selling them just in Etsy stores. Like it's insane how it went from being like not seen at all to something where it seems like every booth has something along those lines.
And that is why I do my pieces the way I do. It's different. It's out there. There's only a couple artists that I've seen that will go my distance. Other than that, they're all out of Florida. They go really big. My Chocobo, it was just to make my materials back was $350.
Oh my gosh.
The Chocobo is not even just the Perler piece. I actually bought 3 canvases. One, the giant canvas the biggest one you can get at Joann's, and then 2 medium sizes. And my wife and I painted a full-blown forest background with splashes of white to show light through, and pretty much glued it to the canvas. So yeah,
that is incredible.
Yep, I like putting my stuff on canvases or framed up. So,
and from this art to now cosplay, how did you get into cosplay? Was it something just recent, or has it been for a while?
It's really recent. My buddy Logan has been trying to get me to cosplay since I went to my very first MegaCon. The that Stan Lee was at, and I finally did it last year. Was the first time I ever cosplayed, and it was Bane. And I had an experience with Kevin Conroy. His first day at MegaCon, I was like the only villain in his line and was up front. He goes, "Oh my god, it's Bane!" And oh, it was amazing. Like I did, a regular picture with my cosplay on, and he goes, No. We need to take more pictures." I was like, "What?" He goes, "Take off your mask," and he just did that special for me. So he's like, "That's amazing," because I did the Chuck Dixon Bane, comic nerd. I will not ever wear a respirator and say, "Yes, I'm Bane." No, I'm sorry. No, that's not happening. Yeah, hell no. My second cosplay was Maui, but it wasn't the Maui that you saw. This one was really touchy. I went to SuperCon in Fort Lauderdale, and I had the whole get up. I only had the mini hook, the toy hook.
Okay.
The moment I took my shirt off, I had tons of people just running around just to want to take pictures. And this is before the con opens. And they take pictures, and a guy comes over, says, "You need to put your shirt back on." I'm like, "Why? This is my costume." "No, you need to put your shirt back on." I was like, whatever. So I did. A lot of people were sad. I was sad. And this guy comes in, has a giant hook. I'm not, racist or anything, but like he was just a white guy and marker. It wasn't paint. It was marker tattoos on him.
Uh-huh.
And he was just, a really buff guy. The same guy that told me to put my shirt on, I looked at him and I looked over and pointed, and he didn't do anything.
What?
Yeah, it really, really hurt my feelings, and that kind of turned me off of cosplay. Like, I went to another con after that, and I didn't cosplay ever again. And, Dwayne The Rock Johnson's dad was there, and his cousin was there. Like, I went and saw them, and, they recognized the hook. They recognized, who I was being. And even I got on their Facebook Live. Rikishi Fatu put me on his Facebook Live going, "Oh my god, The Rock's here," and like we lit up, and I got to meet some of the other wrestlers just talking, and they're like, "Wow, you look great." And when they asked me to take my shirt off, I couldn't. I told them what happened, and they got upset too. So yeah, well,
That's crazy.
It's whatever, but it's one of those experiences I got to have with, another celebrity. It's actually on Twitter. We did a little photo at Rikishi Fatu's table promoting Moana. And, that's on his Twitter page. So it was great, but it really upset me. And to do it for this MegaCon, my buddy Logan made my hook. And he was like, "We're doing this. I don't want to hear any excuses." So I did it. I lost a lot of weight, and it was a really body shaming experience that I was very nervous of. But everybody accepted me, and I would never break character because I did it for the kids. Like, I know how many kids go to MegaCon. It's a family atmosphere. It's an amazing con, and I just don't ever want to see a kid not smile. Like, if they see a character, like a superhero, any cosplay that I do, I maintain and do research on their mannerisms and will stay to it and stay true. That's just the way I am, though. So
That's again an incredible story, and I can't believe with everything that is worn or not worn to conventions for people that cosplay, it's incredible that someone with their shirt off would go through that and then not have it done to a different person.
I've seen like that entire day. If it wasn't for some of the celebrities like Dante Basco, literally everybody knows that he's my quote unquote cousin. Like, we get together. I was like, God, it sucks being your cousin. That's like Patrick. Patrick, I've known him for a good bit. He's my cousin. So it pisses a lot of people off. Like, he cheered me up alongside of, the Samoan Dynasty cheering me up.
Yeah.
So, like, I saw a lot of people, like, even girls, like, oh, like, almost a thong, basically, and they didn't say anything, or another person. Like, there was a little bit heavy-set girl, and they told her that she had to put a jacket on. I was like, screw that. Like, I was so upset.
That's crazy.
Yep.
So, for your cosplays now, is there one? I know you said you're working on the Hulk for the future. Is there any others that you're working on?
One of my new best friends that I truly love now is talking about making me Genie. Me and her are working together. She's actually Tefiti. If you saw any of those pictures, she's the Tefiti that I always took pictures with.
Okay.
We're working on becoming, I'm working on Genie on top of working on the Hulk. I want to do a different version of Bane, probably like Arkham City type deal with a, jumpsuit. But like I said, I will never go, yes, let's go make some strawberry milk, or, go crazy. Oh, yeah. I make fun of that Bane as much as possible. Like, I met Chuck Dixon. He gave me a free autograph and free, like, drawing because he gave me a full rundown. Was like, when was my first comic made for Bane? How many Vengeance of Bane is out there? What's his real name? Yeah, I answered all of them at his table. So it's like, yeah. But yeah, those are the only cosplays I'm currently working on. I'm trying to do the shark Maui. Actually, a lot of people have requested me to do the half shark, half Maui, and I was like, well, sure, I'll do it if I have the time and the materials and how to. Of course, I'll do it, and I'll probably walk around with my head down, moping around, like, thank you guys. You're great. So, of course.
Now, I do have to ask a question because I saw a video of you doing push-ups with Ray Park. Is that correct?
There's 2 videos of that, yes. He has it on his Instagram, and I have it on mine.
I think I saw it on his.
Yes. So I went and stood in his line, not for me, but for my personal trainer's girlfriend. And, he came out and was apologizing for how late he was. And, I'm first in line. So we took pictures together for his Instagram, like as a full group. So I'm up there right in front. And he's like, what's your name? I was like, it's Brian. And he's like, who am I signing this to? And I was like, Pia. And he's like, that's not your name. I was like, yeah, that's my personal trainer's girlfriend's name. He goes, are you going to get something for yourself? I was like, I do want to, but I know this is going to sound bad, but I have to go meet up with some friends right now. And he goes, no, you were first in line. How long have you been sitting in this line? I was like, there was no line behind me when I came here. He goes, yeah, no. And he gives me a free autograph. Well, out of respect, on his Instagram and, any of his media, he talks about being healthy. Mm-hmm. And how people just stop him and expect, a free autograph or something, right? Well, he sent out like a challenge and stuff and said, do 20 push-ups and I have no problem signing or doing whatever you want. Okay. So I went back to him in my Maui cosplay and he, loved it. We were talking about it and he remembered me when I took my wig off. And I was like, out of respect, I want to do 20 push-ups for you. You didn't have to do that for me. And he goes, I don't want you to do it unless you want to do it. I was like, I need my workout in. And I even sent him a message. I was like, would you like to work out sometime? And, never got back. He's always busy. And he goes, how about we do push-ups together? I was like, sure. He goes, how about we do slap push-ups together? I was like, sure, I've never had a partner to do push-ups with. He goes, let's go. And he's like, do you mind if I record it to put it on my social media? I was like, of course not. I don't care. And one thing led to another.
Right.
We did it. And 5 minutes later, I'm still at the end. Like, I'm walked away. Like, I'm just talking with my friends. He just walks straight up to me, like, leaves his booth area and goes, hey, what's your name on social media? I was like, I'll tag you in it and we'll find each other. He goes, perfect. I'm so sorry that I'm bothering you. I'm like, it's an honor to meet you and I would love to work out with you again. He goes, same to you. I was like,
Oh, that's awesome.
Next, you know it, a couple days ago on Instagram, he starts liking my stuff on Instagram and liked the video and everything. So, yeah,
That's
he found me.
So cool.
He's a great guy. He's a really great guy.
Okay. And now for those people who have been listening to this episode and are interested in following you, either Instagram or your Perler beads or whatever social media you have, where's the best place that people can find you?
Right now, Instagram is one of my go-tos, especially for cosplay. It would be Harris Cosplay, HARRIS, space cosplay, or Pinoy Panda, PINOY PANDA 89. Those are my two Instagrams. And if anybody's interested in my Perler art, Facebook would be the_art_of_Pinoy Hulk. And you'll see my Perler art of Stan Lee as the profile picture for my like page.
Awesome. And I'll make sure that they're on the show notes and on our Facebook page as well. And Brian, I just want to say, number one, thank you to Patrick for hooking us up, but thank you for taking the time to do this, because I think I was in line with you to see Felicia Day, and
you probably were.
and you were like stepping out to take pictures and everything else. I was like, man, that is an awesome cosplay.
Yeah, I couldn't stand in a line Saturday or Sunday without being pulled out to do a photo, which I didn't mind. Like, it was always for a kid, and I even got dragged into the Disney group shot. So that was fun.
Well, I just want to say thank you again for your time. I appreciate it. And, I had a lot of fun, talking to you and going back in time to Disney pay channels and cassettes and VCRs. And
my memory goes way back to my childhood. It's been an honor, and I appreciate, Patrick and you reaching out to me.
Oh, it was my pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, can I give a quick shout out?
Of course.
I wanted to shout out to Ever After Character Events. I am now part of their characters for their party planning as Maui.
And where can people, especially I guess in the Central Florida area, what's the best place for people to either find them on Facebook or Instagram or to connect with?
It would be Facebook and their website, which is, Ever After Character Events.com, and then the Facebook is their name. And then, of course,
okay.
Yeah, and I've got to give a shout to Logan Z, as in Logan, the letter Z, great for making my hook and my special Tefiti Cosplay. You can find her at Cosplay, COSFAY. She does a lot of cosplay and does her own nerd scented lotions and whatnot.
Okay, awesome.
Oh yeah,
I'll make sure to have their links on this Facebook page and on the show notes and everything.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Not a problem, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/talesfromthefandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.